Hi everyone, welcome back to Automation. Last time we tested out the Loyal and released a couple of facelifts for the Loyal. Today we're going to be looking at what we're doing in the future. So we left off last time discussing whether or not we should be entering a new car or a new facelift. And I've been looking at this, and really the deciding factor for me is coming down to the car bodies. That since our last launch, which is in 1946, really not that many car bodies have unlocked. We've got these three different classes here, but they're all bigger cars, in some cases much bigger, 3.2 meters on that large one. These make excellent luxury cars. Really not what we're going for with sports cars. 1955 is the next update, and we can see there are a huge range of cars. In particular, I really like the look of this 2.3 meter wheelbase. There's also this set of insane looking cars in 1956, which again look pretty cool and are certainly possibilities. But I'm not sure if it's going to be worth waiting a whole other year. I think it depends on timings for the other things. But certainly for the next major car, looking at 1955. It also does give us some time to research some other things. So at 55, we should have unlocked radial wheels, which will really help our tires. Fiberglass chassis, which I don't know if we'll be going for, just due to the fact that cars are really expensive already. Certainly looking towards fiberglass in the future. We might stick to monocoque for now. Monocoque aluminium for now. And new drum brakes will definitely be handy. Right now our brakes are nowhere near what we need them to be. We've also got all sorts of suspension options, entertainment options, and safety. So I think in 1955 will be a really good place to launch that. But for now, we should do an update of the Loyal. It is certainly still desirable, especially in the light sports category. And we are currently maxing out our factories on the car shifts. Engine's still just about hanging in there. But certainly when we upgrade to the next car, we're going to need to get bigger factories going. We are still making a nice profit. We want to keep this going so it filters through for another 5 years, plus the time it's going to take to research the new car. So let's get on and do the research of the second facelift for the Loyal, which will unfortunately be its final facelift. So we'll go ahead here. Now immediately upon starting a facelift, we do get a bonus to our desirability. This is just because this is a new version of the car, so the old version starts to lose desirability just as it ages. And so this one's got brand new stats there. But these will drop off, and so just as before, we're going to play around with various settings. And before I do anything else, I'm going to jump in and see if the engine needs its own facelift. So we've not got a huge amount extra out of the engine, but what we have done is just increase a few of the quality sliders, particularly the top end. We've increased the quality rather significantly. That gets us a few extra horsepower out. And you can see that on this page, comparing the old versus the new. It's going to take a little bit more time in engineering. That's fine. We're not really changing anything else. It should be quite an easy engineering run to do. It does make the engine more expensive, so we'll just need to track that. But we can see here we get better fuel efficiency, better performance. Actually ends up being a bit lighter. So a bit more expensive, but in general a bit better. Actually just going to balance it a little bit more. Just tweaking down the quality since the price was shooting up a bit extremely in that last one. So this should be a fairly good engine. So now to do the same thing with the car. So again here there wasn't really that much to tweak. We could put in four-wheel drive instead of rear-wheel drive. Rear-wheel drive is a lot more sporty, so I think I'll leave that there for this edition at least. I have tweaked a couple of the quality sliders, particularly with braking. That seems to make a really big difference. And I've rebalanced the brakes so that the rear brake isn't skidding anymore. Otherwise, it's got us a few extra points. And so now it's just a case of doing the same for the convertible sports version. Again, here's not too much that we can really do with this car. Just updated a couple of settings, just trying to increase some of the quality. Most of this facelift is going to be in the engine settings. We can just spend a little bit more time smoothing out the engine or smoothing out the factory and making everything work quite well. So I'm not going to put in the quality testing or upgrade the plant size. I'll wait until we're doing the new car to do those. I'm just going to bump tooling quality just a tad, just to make sure that we're still getting good throughput and we don't have another issue like we had before. And just because one of the major issues right now with the Loyal is it's a bit expensive for the market, I'm going to try and put in some time into the processing so that we get better. So optimize the processing, we're wasting less material, and that should give us a better overall price point. Again, just boosting up the quality on the engine. It was actually engine failure last time, so just want to try and avoid that. I'm trying to balance the engine again. This case, process optimization didn't do a lot, but increasing the automation on the tooling works quite well. So I've done that, again targeting 2 years for this facelift to go through. So now again, we arrive at this screen, and so I'm going to tweak the prices. It resets the prices, unfortunately, each time. So I'm going to try targeting again to get a nice, decent profit going forward. So here we go, for 14,000 for the light sports, 15,000 for the convertible sports. We're getting some very nice numbers here, and that should help cover the cost of the next car going forward. The engine factories are now being slightly overworked. We'll just have to see how that is. We are definitely going to upgrade before starting the next car. And just as before, I'm going to deactivate the loan. We can take that hit quite nicely. Whereas now we'll just let those release and let time tick on until 1955. See how things are doing there. So I'll catch you all very shortly. So here we are, the Loyal 51 has just released. Still selling off the old Loyal 48s, making a nice healthy profit, and you can see the factories are still definitely being overworked, so we really do need to upgrade these for the next one. I mean, that is good news. This means we are selling very well, and so we just need bigger factories going forward, so we'll definitely be upgrading to the mediums. And again, just going to let time tick to 1955, and then we can get on designing those. So here we are, 1955 has just rolled around. We're getting a warning about new safety regulations, but we're absolutely fine with that. And as you see, we've made quite a bit of our money back. The Loyal is still selling very well, so that means we don't have to rush the next one out the door. We are going to be replacing Loyal. It is getting a bit old now. It's coming up to its 10-year anniversary, and we could really use something else. It's going to go into our car project, and now we're going to start a new project, looking at the possible awareness. Again, we're mostly going to be targeting Farina right now. Light sport has started to become a thing in Hetvasia, and we can also sell into Delua. Sorry, light sport isn't a thing in Hetvasia yet, but the Delua market has opened up. They mostly want luxury things. We might start a second line of cars for those, so have one factory, one car really focusing on the light sports side, and then have a different line focusing more on the luxury side. For now though, definitely looking at the untapped revenue, light sports is a big market, and so certainly what we want to focus on. So here we have our cars. As we see, we've got the 1955 bodies now available. And I really like this line of cars here. The 2.3 meter, one row of seats. It's not the widest choice. We could go for some others here. Have a few more rows, a little better size. I quite like the look of this one, just for that kind of light sports aesthetic. It's also got a hardtop convertible version, which is very useful, as opposed to this series, which only has the soft top. So we should be able to get more convertible sports sales going with this one. And plus, it just looks really quite nice. Or at least, really unique. Now, as for this car, well, this one is going to be the Azrios. Again, I'm naming these just after my people in my Discord channel, out of the order that they joined. Incidentally, Alicia is not a bot, she's my wife. I'm just skipping her name for now. If we do run out of people, I'll include her, but for now she's happy to let other people get their names in first. So now out of what to make this car out of, we have unlocked fiberglass. I'm not sure that we want to go with that just now. This really makes the production efficiency very, very low. What I am considering doing, though, is going for steel presses. We can get a lot more throughput. We are selling a lot of these cars, and we're going to be upgrading to medium factories anyway. Steel might be quite good for that. And so this is cheaper, this is heavier. You can see there compared to aluminium, it's quite a bit more heavy. A lot less corrosion resistant as well, but we can mass produce this, which is going to be really quite good. These are the light sports we're going for. We do want to be making a lot of these. That does mean we do have some other options. We could certainly spend some engineering time making the monocoque chassis. And so this is itself a lot lighter than the other two chassis styles. It's more expensive, but we've just saved money elsewhere. It does give a lot more safety. The main downside is it just takes a lot more time to research. This is going to be our major research cost in putting this together. Now, we could go for galvanized. I think at least for... Actually, we can't change this later. I think we're going to go for regular steel, though. We don't really go for huge reliability. We want sportiness. And so we can save a little bit more in terms of money there. Engine can only fit longitudinally in this car and in the front. And for our suspension, we can go double wishbone, double wishbone. I'll just put on our experience monitor here so we can see what we've already got some experience in. And so we can see, because we've engineered wishbone before, we've got 14% familiarity. And so that's going to make it quicker to research next time. Now, importantly, we need a new engine here. And I would like to design a new engine from the ground up rather than editing our old one. So there are a lot of disadvantages of the old one. It was really small, really light. We really need something better this time. So we're going to go for a new engine project here, and I'm just going to leave the names until later, and we know exactly what we're building. So Azrios suggested that these engines be at least 4 litres and a bit closer to 5.7 as possible. So we'll try it with 4 litres there. Now, this warning's popping up that we don't have enough room in the car, but that's only for the forward wheel drive. Rear wheel drive, this still fits in absolutely fine. That kind of makes sense. There's just not enough room in this car to stick this engine in the front and have the front wheels also driving the car. You need to have this engine with the axle facing backwards, and so you're driving the rear ones. It's absolutely fine for us. We want rear-wheel drive. We're going for sportiness. And since we've got some experience in direct acting overhead cams, I'm going to stick with those. And I don't think we really need this to be like, this is going to end up being quite a powerful engine. I think it can easily drive itself, even if it's made out of cast iron. Now for our materials, for now I'm just going to leave these as cast. If we run into trouble, we may think about upgrading these later. So just altered the settings to make the stroke a little shorter than the bore size in order to give us better high RPM reliability. Because again, that's what we're going for. We're going for a high revving engine here. We do have a new engine technology, which I think might be worth going into. You can at least see what the stats are like with this. It does take a long time to research, but we are spending a lot of time researching the monocoque chassis. And does have the potential to give us a lot of extra power out of this thing. It's a bit more expensive, but not hugely so. So we'll just see how that does. Interestingly, you do need the performance intakes. There are no standard intakes available for the DCOE carburetors. And I want to try this with just regular leaded. We can play around with the super leaded going forward for a fancier version. I'm probably going to save a super leaded engine for the sort of more luxury car market. For our exhaust, I'm going for tubular engines, tubular headers. And just as a nice midpoint here. We do have some experience with dual engines, so I'll put those in. But because they're dual engines, I'm going to choke the exhaust a little bit. So here are our initial stats, and it's looking pretty awful, mostly because we have really severe valve float here. We can play around with some of our settings, and I'll get back to you. So here we go, after some playing around, we've arrived at our new engine design. So this is a V8 engine, 4 litres, and we can see it's getting 232 horsepower. Can compare that against 62 horsepower that the old engine was getting. So a really big increase in the actual power this engine's putting out. Doesn't really like as high revs as it did before, so we've got a bit of an issue there. This still should be revving high enough to make people happy. So this is reaching a maximum about 5,500 RPM, and it redlines just over 6,000 RPM. Otherwise, we've got this set up very race heavy. Did stick with the regular leaded for now. Play around a bit with the super leaded. But otherwise, we've got a really quite powerful car. So these are just comparing the engines against the best version of the old engine. You can see it's got 3 times the performance index. It's a lot heavier, that's fine. It's got more than enough performance to make up for that. It's got a really, really good throttle response compared to the old engine. A little worse reliability, but comparable. And it's a little less smooth, which isn't too surprising. We've given this thing a lot of power for the same number of cylinders. A little noisier, but again, sports cars like the noise. Certainly is more expensive in pretty much every factor. More expensive to service, more expensive to build. But we'll just see how that goes. We might be able to get away with this one. And let's see how this particular engine sounds. It certainly sounds more powerful than the old engine, so I think this is a good general upgrade. And just sticking with the same naming scheme as before, there's our V8 direct acting overhead cam, and this is our 4 litre 55 variant. So now we've got the engine sorted, we can go over to the car and we can start messing around with this. So of our 3 versions here, we've got a regular version, we've got the convertible hardtop version, and we've got the convertible softtop version. So as before, I'm going to be focusing on the non-convertible version. This gets the most sales, and then I'll look at doing a luxury convertible version. Just messed around with the body morphing a little bit there. Made it look a little bit more streamlined. Can't move this forward at all. Probably needs all the space there for the engine. And just as last time, I will design this thing in a time lapse. So we only have the option for the rear-wheel drive. 4-wheel drive won't fit. Again, can do 4x4. There's really no points. This is not an off-road vehicle. Definitely going for manual and as many gears as we can get. No differentials. Now we do have the option for radial tyres, which are a lot better than the cross-ply ones. I'll go for sports compound to begin with. We do want these to be quite wide tyres, get the best use out of that engine, and I'll try and get these to have the same size forward and back. That significantly reduces the cost, since you just have one tyre type that you need to buy. You don't need to keep 2 sets of spares around. Breaking in, we've got the 2-shoe drum brakes. So we'll use those since we're really reaching our limits before. No aerodynamics are needed. Well, we've not researched any aerodynamics. And cooling airflow, I'll leave as it is. We may need to adjust that going forward. Actually, all versions of this apparently are convertible. I think this is a bug in the current build. That's fine. We'll just have it as detachable soft top for now. No driver assist, and I'll go for the standard 50s, just to make sure we do get enough safety there going forward. We do have progressive springs now, which are more comfortable but less sporty, so we'll just have to see how those go. They aren't that long to research, so I think they might be worthwhile. Now, as normal, initial results are a load of rubbish. We just need to mess around with this to change it. Although it's actually surprising, initially this is a really good entry for the convertible sports market. Right, so I'll play around with this, edit it a bit, and see where we end up. Okay, so here we are after some tweaking. So a lot needed to be messed around with. Big issue was the wheel spin. Got a really powerful engine, so we needed to space out the gearing a little bit better, play around with the wheels a little bit better, and adjust the suspension to stop the terminal oversteer being quite so horrible. What we've ended up with is a really, really desirable, if not very affordable car. So in the convertible sports category and the convertible super category, this thing is just destroying the market. People love this car. Remember, 100 competitiveness here is a good thing to aim for. Here we've got nearly 1,000 on convertible sport. Issue is light sport's really not selling very well, and so there's not too much we can cheap out on this version. I might go back into the engine and just try a cheaper version of the engine that can be built in tandem, just to see if we can get that down a little bit. But either way, this is compared against the latest version of the Loyal. So drivability is down, and this is a factor of the increased wheel spin. This is just a lot harder to drive. It's got a much more powerful engine, but sportiness is way up. Comfort is absolutely dropped off here. Not too surprising. Again, this has been really aimed at being a fast car rather than a particularly comfortable car. And otherwise, the expense of this is also just generally much, much higher. So we'll just have to see how this compares. Let's put this on the test track and see how it does on its loop. It's a 93 on the first straight there. And finishes in 2 minutes 36. So that's down about 24-25 seconds from the previous one. So a lot faster car there. See, this is better accelerating, really good at turning. In terms of the markets, it's definitely in this convertible market very, very nicely. It's struggling in some of the others, but they definitely do like the convertible. So I'm going to go. There's no reason to give this one a fancier update. This is hitting the fancy market quite well. I'm going to have a quick look at the engine and get back to you. So I couldn't really manage much with the other engines. There's probably various things I could look into doing. But for now, what I'm going to try and do is bring down the cost simply with automation. I'm going to have the steel presses in, going to really push the automation and just have a single trim being made of this car and really try and get that price point down. So everything else is looking really good. It is simply the affordability of this car. So I'm going to go ahead and do the editing of this now, try and make it look pretty. And as before, I'll have that in a time-lapse view, so sit back and enjoy. So there we go, there is the Azrios. I think I accidentally made it into a muscle car, but still, looks pretty cool. Did put on labeling. I didn't put on labeling on the previous one simply because it wasn't coming up well against the white background. There we have some labels. And ended up going for the Falcon here as the company logo. I think that's pretty cool and pretty fitting with what we are. And so there we go, a brand new car. Again, looking good on the market, so I'm happy to put this forward and see what we can do in the factories to try and get this working well. And the first thing we're going to do is upgrade the factory itself because we need steel presses. Now this is going to be expensive. This says 160 million. We're probably going to need to take out loans to get this one out, but still seeming pretty good. I'm going to put in staff facilities as well, just to keep this nice and efficient. By tweaking this a little bit more, we can bring down the cost quite substantially, putting in quite a lot into automation, but that works well with this current build that we've got. We will be rebuilding all of the factories, so that's no problem. It's going to be a brand new factory run. As we can see here, with our current quality assurance threshold, we're not actually ditching any cars at all. So that's really quite nice. Now we can go on to the next screen and look at our engineering time. So this is quite high right now, as we would expect. We are paying quite a bit. Getting the new chassis is the major cost there. Can put all this together and try increasing some things, bring down that time just a little bit. This is going to be an expensive project. This gets it done in 5 years, which I am happy with. I'm going to be upgrading the engine factory as well and putting in the staff facilities on top of that. Spending a little bit here again just to increase the automation, bring down that cost. Aiming again 5 years. So I actually went into this and played around a little bit more with that model of the car. The big issue it turns out that it was having was simply the factories were too big. This car does not justify having a medium factory. Really can't fill that many orders. And so I had to change several things. I had to go down to a small factory, which meant redoing it as an aluminium car. But overall, we still are getting pretty good numbers on our various trims. It is a bit expensive for the light sports category, but otherwise it's certainly a desirable car. We'll just have to see how well we can sell with this current brand. It's going very well into the higher categories, and on this one I disabled the loan as well. We're going to get down fine without the loan. The predicted numbers are looking far, far better. We should be making a profit on this in 3 years after launch. So we're just going to have to see how that goes. But this is certainly looking better. This aluminium chassis small run does seem to be a lot better just for now. Well, that's all for this time. Next time we'll be test driving the Azrios and then putting it through its first few facelifts and seeing how well it sells. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this, do comment and subscribe and like the video. If you'd like to be involved a bit more in the community, like people on Discord have been, giving me feedback, do consider joining the Discord channel. The link is down below. And then I will be naming people after that Discord. Naming cars after people in the Discord, rather. And if you would like to support the channel, I have released 3 novels. Links to those are down below. They are free for Amazon Prime users, so any help there would be appreciated. But otherwise, until next time, remember to have fun. Cheers.